Welcome to the Athletic Edge podcast. I'm your host, Liam Evans, strength and conditioning coach and owner of Evans Performance. This is a podcast tailored for athletes, coaches, and parents interested in every facet of athletic development. Join me and guests from around the world as we dive into game-changing tools and expert insights covering strength training, performance enhancement, and long-term athletic development strategies. Uncover the keys to elevate your athletic potential, drawing from trusted resources to safely and effectively navigate your training and build your athletic edge. So today we are very lucky to be joined by Jack Brown, who is the owner of AquaStrength Performance. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Thank you so much for having me, Liam. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. It's a good, we were just talking before this. I think one of your podcasts had come on my radar. And then from then I kind of binged a few of them out of one pure interest just in strength and conditioning, but also it sounds like a pretty sound guy, pretty cool guy that I'd like to, have on, get to know, and hear some thoughts around strength and conditioning and your experiences with the swim population especially. But before we get into any of that, do you want to just give a quick overview on yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, man. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. Super excited. Yeah, my brother and I do our own podcast, but I haven't been on a ton of other podcasts, so I haven't done the elevator pitch, so I'll keep it fairly quick. I grew up swimming and playing water polo. Water polo is my main sport. I played club water polo in college, so I didn't play Division I or anything. I'm at Cal Poly, and I studied kinesiology. And I did one strength and conditioning internship while I was there that was really my senior project. So it was about 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then when I finished up, I moved home and thought I might go to physical therapy school. So I took more classes at a junior college, and I was getting hours as a physical therapy aide back in my hometown in the East Bay. And just wasn't in love with it. I knew that it probably wasn't what I wanted to make a career out of. And then I kind of just started training kids on the side because I still love training. I love training myself, and working with others was fun. And I was coaching water polo, so I kind of had a natural base of athletes that wanted to train, and it picked up pretty quickly. And then within a year, I had a lot of kids, a lot of families that I was working with, and it was super fun. And I realized that could be actually a career potentially. And I was like, wait, if I'm going to go into this, I need a little bit more training. I feel like I didn't think I was quite ready to really start a business out of it. So we were at the start of COVID at this point almost, and I reached out to the strength staff at University of Southern California, just asking if they were ever looking for interns. And they got back to me right away, and they're like, yeah, you want to start soon? And I was like, oh, wait, what? It's that. Yeah, I think I got super lucky in that sense that I reached out and they got back to me and were so interested. I had one FaceTime or Skype interview, and they're like, yeah, if you want to move down here, great. So I moved down there for 5 months and absolutely just fell in love with S&C and realized it's exactly what I wanted to do. And I was fascinated with it, man. I don't know, the college world is something special. You spend so many hours per day on campus working with I worked with every team except for football. And I thought every team was so fun. It was so fascinating, from golf to tennis to swim to water polo, watching the track and field athletes, the throwers, those are some athletes right there.
Yep.
And it was just super fascinating. And then my internship wrapped up, and I moved back home, and I felt way more confident and just started doing exactly what I had been doing beforehand. So I was working with more athletes and just really trying to build. And yeah, I was having a blast with it. And at some point, there was an opportunity to go back into the college world. And I kind of looked at where I was at with my own thing. And I loved the idea of a salary and benefits and an amazing logo, being with a really, really cool program. But then I looked at what I had and I was like, this might be kind of cool too, though. I really like this. And of course, the other huge factor here is that my girlfriend, who was, about to be my fiance and is now my wife, was here. And I was like, yeah, I'm not leaving life for a potential work opportunity. That's kind of where I'm slightly different than potentially a lot of strength coaches who are open to bouncing around and moving across, the country or different states. I was like, yeah, if I can do my thing here, that was most important to me. Yeah. So, we just grew from there. We moved from driving around to training people out of my garage to renting subleasing a space in our area, which was super nice. And then the beginning of this year, January of 2025, we moved into our own bigger space, about 3,000 square feet, where we run our whole thing out of. I got my brother as my right-hand man. He runs it with me. And then now we got 4 or 5 other coaches helping us, and we're having a blast. It's the coolest thing ever. So sorry, I kind of went on a rant there, but that's a little bit of me.
Man, there's so many things in there that I can relate to. And especially, I had also, technically I'd started my training business before I also went away. And it's just similar to you, like we talked about, I reached out to a bunch of schools. Florida was like, hey, you want to hop on a quick FaceTime? Hopped on. You want to come? Cool, done, set. But I had started everything at that point. I was technically, I had my CSCS and my undergrad degree and all that. But like you, I still felt like I was missing a lot of experience and knowledge. And obviously everybody has that bit of imposter syndrome, especially when you start out, but I think forever. So it was just a good opportunity for me, like right after COVID, before things are really picked up again, to just go out and get a little bit more experience. And yeah, running from, I think obviously interning is not easy. You're essentially at the facility all day because you're running from team to team, coach to coach, but you're just trying to get as much as you can out of however long that stint is that you're there. And then headed back home. I also had opportunities to stay in collegiate, but thought, I do kind of want to see what I can do myself and build something. And obviously it's worked out, but it was a bit of a risk, but it was something that I wanted to do. And also I was thinking about going physical therapy route, and just actually had applied to like one school just to kind of do it because everybody was expecting me to do it. And I did not put any effort into the application. I was just like, this is not, I don't know. I just didn't feel like that was something I wanted to do. And then thankfully I had a couple internships at my undergrad degree, and I was like, maybe I should try and make this a career. But before we even get into anything, how has opening your facility kind of expanded things or allowed you to really grow into like your business with your brother and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm very calculated with the steps that I take. Like I'm pretty risk averse, honestly, which is not the best trait for a business owner to have. So every step that we've taken in this process, we've been like more than ready. And looking back, I kind of laugh. I'm like, dang, like we probably could have done this earlier. We probably could have tried that earlier. But I really wait until like it feels more than right, or we've like almost gotten uncomfortable with the current situation we were at. So I would say that like moving into our own gym space this year, it almost felt less of an opportunity to expand than it did like moving into where we should be. Like it feels
like
right. And we have, exactly. And we have absolutely grown. We've added more athletes, and now we have a parent side, and there's other things that we can do. And we are definitely still growing, which I'm so thankful for. And it's easier to grow in this situation. Like we have twice the space. So naturally it kind of just feels like, okay, we can flow a little bit better. But I would say, on the flip side, like the last place we were at, we had outgrown. So it got to the point where sessions are a little bit uncomfortable because we're working with, I think it was like 1,800 square feet or 1,600 square feet. And even though I try to cap groups at, 8 to 10 athletes, it's like, I'm really bad at saying no. And so when you hear a couple parents who are like, hey, we're so sorry. We thought we had practice, but can we squeeze in a lift? And I'm like, we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. I'll make sure Cal's here. I'll have one other coach. The three of us can navigate these 12 kids. And, and then you start to look around a couple months, and it's like, okay, to really give these families and kids what they need, we can't be here anymore. And then it took a couple calls with a business mentor of mine and a few friends that I really trust. And they're like, dude, you guys are more than ready. Like, I don't know what your worry is. Like, look at all this, look at that. Like, you can change this, do this. Just people smarter than me that I really rely on heavily, because I think when I'm in it, like, and I'm sure you can attest to this, when you're in it, sometimes it's hard to see things that are obvious. And then, now I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, like I understand what they were telling me. I was too deep in the situation to fully understand. Yeah, if we hadn't moved here, I couldn't even imagine what it would be like at our old spot right now. Like, we couldn't fit there. It wouldn't work. Yeah. It wouldn't be fair.
And there's something about that. There's obviously, depending on the space that you have, there's that like optimal amount of kids, or in a session that you have, there's enough for there to be an atmosphere, a good environment. Everybody's, listening to music, having a good time. But you hit that like one or two kids over, and then it just feels like a little clunky, and like it's not running as smoothly as you want it to. There's different ages or training ages or anything like that goes on. And depending on the facility, it can definitely feel like then you're not giving the best product to those people or the parents, whatever it is.
And that doesn't sit right with me. That's like, that really, like, it starts to kind of bug me. And flow is everything. Like, when you're running a session, I mean, I'm guessing after every single session you run, at least this is how I am. Within the first like 5 minutes of every athlete leaving our facility, I'm assessing like, okay, that flowed really well. That was a great session. Like, everybody got better today. Or sometimes I leave and I'm like, I know like that was 90%. Like
Yeah.
8 of them had a really good lift, but I feel like 2 of them I could have adjusted this or that, but then this wasn't open up, and then I should have had, a few kids in this area of the gym while others were in this area, and we could have dispersed. And if you ask them, they'd be like, no, it was amazing. Like it's not like big noticeable stuff, but it's stuff to me that I'm like, no, if we can do better, we need to do better. It has to sit right.
It's just that little feeling after the session, like as a coach when you've had a good session, or at least the kids have, and like the flow of it and everything's been great. And then like you said, there's just those times where you're like, something doesn't feel right. Like, yeah, the session was obviously good, but it could have been better, I guess. And then I'm like, all right, well, what were the issues? How could I have done things different? Whether it's like, all right, maybe I should have programmed that lift with that lift, so these group of athletes could stay in that area, and then the other group could stay in a different area, and then whatever it is. So what with your gym now, how what's the day to day, like how does it run day to day? Is it all just athlete groups, or do you have open hours where people can technically have a little membership and come and do their own thing, or how do you make it work?
So everything is group training. We started our parent side like 3 months ago. So I run one parent group in the morning every day, which has been a blast, just because kids are out of school right now because it's summertime, but I started it when it was still school year, and we had a lot of open hours in the morning. So I was trying to navigate like, hey, we have this new space. We're basically using it from 1:45 p.m. until 9 is when we're here.
Yeah.
What can we do? So we threw a parent group in the morning. And then on top of that, we kind of debated like, hey, do we do like an early morning high school group or not? And we actually are contracted by 3 different high schools in the area to go to the high school, which is honestly super fun for us to work with an entire team. It kind of gives you that college feel of like, instead of it being a group of a couple middle schoolers, a couple high schoolers, and a college kid, it's like to be with an entire high school polo team is super fun. So we still do that in the mornings. Then we have the parent group. And then, like I said, at 1:45, we start our first group of the day. Monday through Thursday, we run 5 groups, and there's 10 openings. So we typically see between 40 to 50 kids a day, Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, we just do 3 groups. We cut off early that night and finish up at like 5 because, one, we need to be around and be with our wives, our families, do things. But also the numbers totally dip off. Like kids love lifting early on Fridays. The middle schoolers love lifting on Fridays, or at least their parents love dropping them off for lift on Fridays. But Fridays are not a popular time with older high school kids. Like they're out and about. And I understand that. I'm not going to I'm not the one who's forcing kids and being like, well, if you're not grinding, you're not going to see success. It's like, no, I get it. You're not going to do Fridays. And then we offer one Saturday session, one Sunday session, typically, unless of course life happens and we're on a trip or something like that. But that's our schedule. So
it's funny. I literally had this conversation with one of the kids in my sessions this week, because I do offer, like you, I think I offer like one session on a Saturday that I treat almost as like an overflow session. Like if somebody can't make it during the week, cool, I have an hour on Saturday, come in, we'll get a lift in. And one of the kids is they're going to Junior Pan Am's next month or a month after, and so we're trying to get our 3 sessions in a week, but they're also lifeguarding or doing other things, so work schedules are different and all this thing. And I'm like, look, I know Saturdays are not the time that you probably want to be coming in, but if we can at least try and get this consistency. I try not to do Friday evenings with my college group because, again, they, especially for the ones that swim in college per se, they sacrifice a lot all year round. And so to ask them again to sacrifice even more in the summer, when they literally have told me, like, sometimes I just want to be a normal kid. And yes, there's that whole, it's the dichotomy, because you don't want to go too far on, like, we're not going to totally undrain or leave ourselves, in a place where we're not doing what's best for us. But at the same time, like, I think it's also important to just enjoy life, be a kid at some point, because they are hardworking athletes and they're training all summer anyway. So if I can make that any easier for them, which I'm sure you can attest to, it's just something that comes up, and it's definitely come up this summer with a lot of my college kids, like you said. Dude,
another big thing too that I changed a lot in our business is, in the beginning, I would really change my schedule to the athlete's schedule. And I do think there's a time and a place for that. Like my first 2 to 3 years, I really tried to make myself available whenever they were available. And I would work my schedule around the athlete's schedule. That being said, at some point, when we got to the number of athletes that we got to where like that's just not even feasible, I was like, okay, we need to have a very set, like it needs to be like, these are our times all year. And then weekends are to be determined. And I can't promise we're always going to have Saturdays and Sundays. But like we make it like very, very standard. I was super scared at first because I was like, well, like I'm like looking at all the different high school practices and schedules. I'm like, okay, well, this school's this time and this school's this time. It's going to make it really tough for these kids to ever find a lift. And my wife said something like super, what I thought was like profound at the time. She's like, parents and families and kids want consistency. And yeah, like for one season, it might not work, but if you keep your times extremely consistent, then they will always know what they can work around. Like other things change. She's like, look at all the club teams in this area. Like they say they have standard times for practice. They are constantly changing their practice times. And it leaves parents up in the air. Like, okay, well, our kid's supposed to swim, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 4 to 6. But then this week, this happened. And this week, this happened to the pool. And then the coach had to move this around. And she's like, you love that standard thing. Like think about it when you go to classes or you show up for this. Like if you know it's always going to be at that time, you can shift your life to then make it happen if it's a priority for you. And I've noticed that completely with our athletes. It's like the ones who would have made an excuse anyways can still make the excuse. And the ones who always make this a priority for them find a way. They're like, okay, well, Jack offers these 5 times. So I can move my dentist appointment. I can go to this swim practice and then I'll be at this lift. And they make it work. And that's how life goes. So it took some trust on my end, but I think it's only benefited them. Like be the constant. Sorry, you have a game this Saturday morning. Let me pop in at Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Like, no, life has to happen too. I can't be that always available coach. It's like not healthy.
And I'm sure you've also found this, but it's just obviously when you're first starting out, you're kind of doing anything and everything just to get clients, keep them happy, trying to please everybody. But it does get to a point where you're like, this is how it is. I'm sorry. Like the sessions are at these times on these days. I hope that you can make it. If you can't, I'll do my best to accommodate in some way, whether that's maybe some remote training or anything else. But at some point, you kind of got to make a stand and just, set your schedule and leave it as it is.
Yeah. I will say when you're 23, it's super fun to just like, your life is like fly by the seat of your pants. Oh, you want to train now? Cool. I'll be there in an hour. Like that's not, doesn't work when you have some more things depending on you.
Quick break in the podcast to let you know about my online coaching program. If you're a parent looking to help your athlete get stronger, faster, and more confident without burning out, my online coaching program is built for you. It's designed to fit busy schedules, focus on long-term athletic development, and give you the structure and support your athlete needs to thrive. To learn more, click on the link in the description. Let's build the foundation that sets your athlete apart and gives them their athletic edge. Back to the show.
So now to get into more of the weeds of things. So how do you find the kids balance all the training that they're obviously doing in the pool with the lifts that you guys, because I've also heard, I think I was listening to one of your podcasts and you've switched models a little bit to where some kids are training like 4 or 5 times a week, but more maybe microdose. So how are you balancing / how are the kids balancing all the swimming that they're doing with the gym that you're providing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's super tough. These kids train so much. And what I came to realize is like, I would try to make everything perfect, I think, and like tell them, if you can be here 2 or 3 days a week, that's perfect. And if you're doing this many swim practices or water polo practices, that's perfect. But what I kind of failed to really understand until more recently is that they really just show up. Like whatever their swimmer polo schedule is, if they're committed, they're going to show up. And they're not going to tell that coach how to run their practices or how many practices to have. Their job as the athlete is to just be there. Same with us. It's like, while I would love for them to space everything out by a day and do, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you have these like ideals in your mind, and that's really not how it goes. So it's like, okay, if they're going to go to all these swim and polo practices, then the more I see them, the more I can control, because they're not in charge of controlling their stressors. Like they're too young. They don't understand. That is literally the coach's job. So if I see them twice a week, well, I can only really put my hand on those knobs twice a week. Like, okay, hey, you seem super fresh. Let's push a little bit. Or you seem super tired. Let's pull back. Oh, it seems like you have no range of motion. Like, I don't know what happened, if you had a huge meet and we just need to really address soft tissue and mobility work today. But like, if you're only seeing them twice, there's only so much work you can do. And when we changed our model from basically like package session type things to just unlimited monthly, it encouraged them to come in more often and make the most of it. And for my brother and I, it made the whole coaching part so much easier, because it's like every day you get to check in on them. Like every single day that they come in, if they're here 4 or 5 days a week, which a lot of them are now, it's like, okay, I know what we did yesterday. We touched on, your hips were tight yesterday. We worked on hip internal and external rotation. I gave you 2 or 3 drills to work through. When you left here, you said you felt better. Okay, today, how do you feel? Oh, they do feel better? Okay, then today we can do a little bit more explosive work in the beginning, build into a strength block, and then you'll be out the door. And tomorrow we'll see where you're at and we'll adjust from there. But it's like you can always kind of like play around with how they're feeling, how they're doing, what's going on. And the communication channel is like so much more clear because we're seeing them so much more often. So it does make it a little bit more stressful on my brother and I that like we really need to look at their training and play with the volume, play with the intensity, play with the dosing. A lot of the kids that we see 4 or 5 times a week are not doing what a lot of strength coaches would consider to be like a full session. Like, they're going to spend, 10 to 15 minutes doing mobility and dynamic work and just moving their body, coming in contact with the ground, doing spinal work, like all this like movement style stuff that, maybe in a typical strength setting you would see for like 3 to 5 minutes. And then maybe we're only doing 15 minutes of strength work and 1 to 2 sets of compound movements with a little bit of accessory work. Like it's not a lot, but it's because we're basically microdosing and spacing everything out. So they're just getting it more frequently. I've become a huge fan of frequency as long as you can really control. And I would say undershoot it always, because with these kids, especially aquatic athletes, I think so many of them are in a constant state of fatigue that, if you just give them like the tiniest bit too much, it's going to not only wreck the rest of that day, it's probably going to ruin their practice that evening or the following morning. And then it's going to carry with them throughout the week. So if we're always kind of undershooting, and Tony Holler always says this, like, don't burn the steak. Once that steak is burnt, there's no going back. So like if you undercook it and you bite in and you realize it's a little bit undercooked, you could throw it back on the grill for a little bit. Yeah. Like it's okay. The steak's not ruined. But the second that thing's burned, you're cooked. And so if it's a Monday or Tuesday, it's the start of their week. Like if you give them the session, you might feel good when they walk out of the door that day, but guess what? They're ruined. And it took a long time for me to learn that. But like, I totally remember, dude, in the beginning being like, we gotta work. Like we got a meet coming up in 3 months. It's going to be their big meet of the year. I'm going to hammer them with this strength block. Then we're going to drop into power. And then we're going to you have this idea. And it's like, guess what? You have no idea that when they go to practice, like out of the blue, they might just get hit with $7,000 out of the, and they were told that they're on taper, and coach got mad because a kid wasn't behaving or paying attention, hit him with a crazy set, and boom, it's over. Like, did you account for that?
Yep.
I don't know.
How do you, because you mentioned Tony Holler, and obviously he's in the track and field world, but takes a different approach to some more old school track and field coaches, especially as far as like volume, I would say, and just like, I think one of his things is he wants the track session to be as, enjoyable as a, thing as it could be. They're not just going to run endless repeats or endless this or that. How have you found with your kids that I'm sure most of them have different coaches, so not everybody's going to the same swim clubs or swim teams, but just the swim universe in general with, kind of the volume that they do swim versus maybe what, I don't know, you hear the words like junk volume or things like that thrown around. So what is I'm just interested on your take on kind of that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much outside of our specific area. So like I know the East Bay, I know a lot of the teams. Some of them are different, but I do see just crazy volume across the board. Like volume that seems, in my mind, unnecessary most of the time. And the things I'll hear in response are like, well, they need to be aerobically fit and they need a base. And no, we need to like think about when they have a 2 or a 3 day meet with 10 events and prelims and finals. They need to be in shape for that. And I just don't buy it. Like I've yet to meet a kid, a high school swimmer or a college swimmer in our area that is not fit and conditioned. And if they seem like they're not fit or conditioned to the level they should be, more often than not, it is that they are fatigued and not rested enough. Like I swear, some of these kids, it blows me away how fit they are. I'm like, okay, I just feel like we're trying to fill the wrong buckets sometimes.
Yeah.
And not to say like, I don't coach swim anymore and I help out with polo a little bit. This isn't really a polo issue in my mind. Like, none of the clubs in our area really like wreck kids with polo conditioning. But in the swim sense, there are a few programs that do a little bit less volume or really do emphasize sprint work. Going fast, having fun, enjoying the practices. And what I see from those athletes is that like when they walk into our space, they always just seem so much happier. They're not complaining. Like it's so clear for Cal and I. I mean, when you're coaching a swim practice, most of the time the kids' faces are in the water. And when they pop their heads up, you're telling them the next set, and then they're on their way. So it is kind of hard sometimes to get a read on how they're doing. But when you have a 1 hour gym session, it is so easy. Like the entire time we're looking at them, we're talking to them, we're watching their body language, we're seeing how they work around the gym. And when you get to a few weeks of nothing but complaints, slouched shoulders, and head hanging, it's like, okay, they're either mad, frustrated with swim or, the situation or life, or they're tired. And when that happens all the time, nonstop, it makes you question, like, can you really get the most out of an athlete if they're in a constant state of fatigue and frustration? And that's where, like, I really saw Tony's stuff, and it really resonated with me, because there are a couple programs and a couple athletes in this area that it's like, they're always telling me about how fun practice was and how excited they were. And it doesn't mean that they don't do aerobic work. Like, one day they had a hard, longer set. The next day they just ripped like a bunch of sprints from the blocks with tons of rest. And they come in smiling and they're like telling us about the set. And they're so stoked. And then they go into lift and I'm like, hey, like, I get you just did a sprint session today. Like, if we need to do a little bit less in here. And they're like, no, let's go. Like, I'm firing. And like, they're so into it because they're so happy that level of joy can elevate any athlete's work level. Like, I'll tell you, that's the one thing that I've learned. It's like, all the science aside, all the conditioning and strength and power work aside, if they're fully enjoying what they're doing and they want to show up each day, the level of effort and intensity that you're going to get from that kid is so much higher. So that's really where I stand with all of it, and like Tony's stuff. And I'm like, if you think about it, if you really base your gym or, your swim team or your polo team off of like, hey, I want every kid to want to come back. Like I want to see them really enjoy it. The outputs are going to be nuts. Like, it would be crazy. Could you imagine that?
Yeah. I and like you said, we are lucky that we get, an hour of actual face-to-face with these athletes. And if you're, building a good enough relationship with, like, I'm sure just like with me, they talk to you, like, and they'll tell you exactly how they're feeling. And sometimes you don't even have to, like, they'll walk into the gym, like you said, shoulders are slouched. They look absolutely exhausted. And you just know, like, all right, damage limitations at this point, or whatever. Like, we're going to always be the ones to adjust, and sometimes it's just necessary. But also the worst part is when you're like, I've had athletes that like week after week I'm finding that we're adjusting. I'm like, all right, well, clearly something here needs to change, because you are just in a permanent state of fatigue. Like, there's overreaching, obviously we do want to push the body, but then there's just straight up overtraining, fatigue, and not getting enough of the recovery.
What do you do in that situation? I'm curious, because I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, when you notice that it's
such a individual thing, I think. So if I was speaking generally, then I'm like, all right, look, let's try and preserve whatever intensity we can, and we'll just cut some volume out of whatever it is. But sometimes if it's like a chronic thing, it's almost like, all right, I almost just feel like I need to it sounds kind of dumb, but cheer this kid up a little bit and actually get them enjoying their sport or training or whatever it is again. And that might mean like they sit on a foam roller and we just chat for 10-15 minutes at the beginning, like, what's going on, like, how you feeling, how can I help you in whatever way that might be. And sometimes they just need to vent a little bit or get it out or whatever it is. I'm just trying to be that sounding board. But yeah, as far as strength conditioning, 5 sets rep stuff, like, I just try to preserve as much intensity as I can without, doing anything dangerous, and just cut some volume or cut an exercise. Or say I know it's a lift, like, I don't know, say we're front squatting or something, and then I know this athlete, that's not their favorite. I'm like, pick whatever thing is, what's your favorite exercise? Let's do that. Let's try and get something out of this.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I'm always curious, because sometimes I'm like, do I just tell them like, hey, we need to change the whole thing? You're doing too much. It's like, or is that just going to, is it just not the time and place, or is it going to fall? Like, because we really don't have that control, isn't it like tough to think about that sometimes? It's like, our job is to kind of be there. It's to support, it's to do the best we can. It's to help educate, but to an extent, because I mean, ultimately, these are things that they're going to have to learn on their own. And I find that some of the most successful athletes that we see, intuitively, they are so smart and they make such good decisions that it blows me away. I mean, I'm thinking of a couple kids right now, like, I'll see them pretty tired one day or like kind of out of it, and we'll get to talking and they're like, oh, well, I was out of town traveling for this thing, blah, 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 whatever, camp, clinic, something. Yeah. And then we had practice Monday and we got smoked with this set. And he's like, no, we have Tuesday morning practice, but like, I just needed the sleep. And in my mind, I'm like, good for you. Like, I'm proud of you. And on the flip side, there's that other kid. There's me in high school who's like, you can't miss a practice. Are you crazy? Like, coach is going to think you're an absolute slacker. That's not happening. And, little do you know, like, that kid totally made the right call, gave his body what he needed, and now is able to give more of himself to the next workout because he can just listen and understand. And I don't know, it's special when you find a kid who like knows and they're like, hey coach, can we, I see that like you have deadlifts on the board today. Like, can we maybe sub that? Like there's no way I can do that right now. And I'm actually going to go do that hip 90-90 thing you taught me the other day. Like, this is literally a conversation the other day that I had. And I was like, yeah, go do that. I was like, if you need, when you're done with that and you need something else, you let me know. And then he came in and he's like, I think my shoulders are kind of stiff. Should I like do maybe like a hang and some T-spine work? And I was like, yeah, you keep rolling. You were on a roll today, dude. Like,
I think
it's funny.
My thought process is also just like, what can I do today that'll hopefully make them, because they're not in a good space today, but what can I do today that'll hopefully make them in a better space tomorrow? So if they're feeling fresh, cool, we can get after it. If they're dejected, tired, fatigued, whatever it is, what can we do today that hopefully, and it doesn't always work out like that, but hopefully they'll be in a little bit better space the next day. And just also feeling like there's somebody there that like listens and understands what they're going through. Because sometimes you find with kids a lot is like, they just feel like they're not being heard sometimes. Like as kind of silly as it sounds, is like, whether it's, my teachers or this or that, like all these things. And they have so many stressors that I think as coaches, we need to also be aware of. Like, when are their exams? We just got a bunch of my kids are in like their last year. So they do this thing called IB, and it's a very rigorous like educational program and exams and all this stuff. And it's like, man, they like, you can just see the amount of stress on their face just from these tests and exams and worrying about getting into college and all these other things that are going on. And again, also trying to just be a normal kid on the weekend sometimes, do some fun things for once. But yeah, I always try and ask them like, what was the set this morning? How'd it feel? How are you feeling? All those sorts of stuff. And yeah, it just feels like sometimes there's only so much we can do, which is tough because we are just kind of confined to the gym space. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, dude, I love that right there. When you said, you're totally right, man, that I feel like sometimes they're just not heard enough. And if like, I think we got into this both to help train kids and make them better at their sport, but then you realize along the way that you're like also kind of like a therapist for them.
Yeah, 100%.
And having good conversations is like half of it. And yeah, dude, we pride ourselves on that. I mean, we have a question of the day always in the gym. Like I think right now it's like, burritos or tacos. And it's like so funny how something simple like that, like the entire warm up, we might be showing them and demonstrating the warm up moves, never speak about warm up, anything like that. And there's like a 10-person debate going on about the best taco shop in the East Bay. And then one kid saying something and someone else is saying something. And then they all start laughing and you look around and you're like, okay, cool. Maybe this is what it's about. Like every single one of them smiling right now and maybe not thinking about their next workout, and it's okay. Yeah.
I'm curious how so obviously when you're young, I mean, we're both technically still, I guess, young strength coaches, but when you're like first getting in, obviously you have all this book knowledge, and one big thing that most people know, even outside the strength conditioning world, is like periodization and then peaking and tapering, all of these things. And when you're first getting in, you're like trying to almost do it by the book as much as you can, or whoever you learn from. And then you realize that these things are also contextual. And when you're with middle and high school athletes, that periodization could look a lot different because, there in a perfect world, we'd have, like you said, the strength block phase. Then we're getting into a power block. Then we're getting into this, then that. And then boom, you're going to be feeling great come meet time. And then you're like, all right, well, actually, they've been away for 2 weeks on that vacation. Then they weren't able to come to practice because they had a double swim day that day. And then they weren't able. So it's like all these things get in the way. So how do you, with more of your younger athletes, I would say, maybe not college, but like, how are you approaching that kind of periodization and peak and taper and all that sort of stuff? Because they love to talk about it. Parents love to hear about it. Coaches are like all zoned in on it. But like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, man, this might be controversial. I don't think periodization even exists in our world. And I think, like you said, when I first got into it, you want to be like the coach, and you've read every strength book and you've listened to all the top coaches. And what you have to realize, or what I had to realize, is that like the more variables you're able to control, the more you can tailor that training to, highly specific periodized training. Well, guess what? We control very few variables. Very few. I mean, we are the first thing to go on their schedule if needed.
100%.
And an hour a day, let's take our kids that train the least and our kids that train the most. The ones that train the least, they're here 1 or 2 days a week. So that's 1 to 2 hours a week. That is nothing in the grand scheme of their day. Nothing. even the kids that are here 4 days a week, 4 hours of the week is such a minimal amount of time to really be a part of. I mean, you look at periodization, and it's like, yeah, okay, you're talking about, you want to do a strength block first, then you want to intensify, build up to power, and then you want to peak. Well, we need to take into consideration how much you're sleeping, what your stress levels at school and life are like, exactly what you're doing in the pool. I need to see all your workouts, and everything we do in the gym has to coincide with what you're doing in the pool perfectly. Your food needs to be on point. Like, everything needs to be on point. Well, the only place you're really going to get those conditions are with Olympic athletes.
Yeah.
The ones who are getting paid to do what they do and can structure their entire day. They can sleep 8 to 10 hours. They have help with their food, or at least a dietitian helping guide them. Like, they can rest in the afternoons. They can take naps throughout the day. They can do all this stuff. That's not the case with middle school and high school athletes. And it's okay because their training age is so low. It's so low. So like, I've done away with periodization. In fact, when I first got into it, it was like a lift card, and every kid's on this 4-week block, and then we're going to shift into this 4-week, and you need to start at this level, and then we'll progress. Oh, you're not quite there? Okay, we can regress. And they're like climbing these levels of this ladder. And now I'm like, okay, where's the kid at? Yep. Like, I'm not going to make you go from goblets or from bodyweight squat to goblet squat to hands-free front squat to regular front squat to back squat if you're already up that ladder. Like, I used to be so like, well, it's your first day in here. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. And now it's like, by the end of our 10-minute warm-up, I know exactly where that kid's starting for the day. And if I miss the mark, like if I'm like, hey, it's, for example, we have a junior boy that came in super fit. I could tell from the warm-up alone. He said he had never trained a day in his life, but I'm watching, like, his squat pattern is amazing. Then we go into lateral squats. He's sinking into his hips, keeping his chest up. We RDL, and his first single leg RDL, absolute perfect balance, slight bend in the knee, shoulders back, held the bottom of his RDL position for a full 3 seconds and stood up. And I'm like, why would I do the disservice of like having him do a bunch of bodyweight stuff when we can just get into it? Let's go. And so we went into 3 sets of 5 back squat with a little bit of weight on the bar, slight pause at the bottom. And it's like, let's do the thing. And then if we can slowly climb from there, awesome. But I think a lot can get lost in the periodization. And with such a young training age, you just got to train the athletes. And, general physical preparation, GPP model, like, most of the year, they need to just be training. And we vertical integration where everything is present, but maybe there's different times where we prioritize other stuff. Yeah, we're getting closer to a meet. So there's a little bit more power work and a little bit less volume. I get that. I'm totally cool with that. And we do that with our high school kids. But it's still just training. And I think it's important for a lot of them to realize, and I thank the college world for exposing me to this. It doesn't always need to be building into something fancy, peaking, they have their competition, we dip off, we restart. Like, it's not always that perfect linear build, have your amazing meet, come back, relax, reset, build. Like, it just needs to be part of the life. It needs to be all the time. I mean, we had our college kids training before they hopped on a flight that day for a big meet. They're in the weight room with us. And it's like, just make it a part of your life. And if you look at professional sports, I mean, you got like NBA teams finish a game. And guess what? The best time to get that workout in is right after the game. Like, they're already moving and grooving. Okay, let's hit a quick 30-minute lift. We're going to go back to the hotel, have a meal, pass out, wake up, and travel the next day. Like, you need to just fit it in, and it needs to always be there because the consistency is the most important piece. So instead of worrying about the periodization, what we will do is we will just generally cover all qualities. We're always going to sprint. We're always going to jump. We're always going to do med ball work. We're going to get them moving. Then we're going to go into a strength block. If you have something important coming up, you're going to do less work. If you don't, we're going to do more work. And then next week, we're going to try to do a little bit better, whether that's going heavier on one set or slower with a tempo on one set or adding a set, like whatever it is. If there's a little bit of progress, and kids know this now that train with us, we do the same stuff for like 4 to 6 weeks, a lot of these kids, because I just want to see them get better. And then sometimes they'll ask the question like, hey, well, why did we switch from this movement to this movement? And in my mind, I don't look at it as a progression or a regression anymore. It's more like, let's get strong at everything. Does it need to logically go from a regular split squat to a rear foot elevated split squat to a reverse lunge from a block? It could for some athletes. Or maybe we got really strong with the split squat for 4 weeks. Let's lift the back leg up and let's get strong on that for 4 weeks. And then I'm just kind of looking to fill buckets and keep them training, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is, even going back to what you said when you first started with like a kid, if they come in and they're clearly just athletically gifted or technically sound, like, you're not going to purposely make somebody do
hands-free or press out, with a 5-pound squat, just because that kind of is how it's supposed to be. And that's something I've tried to incorporate into what I do as well, is like, obviously just from ease of like explaining to people what you do and like a business, perspective. Like, you want something like, if a new parent comes, like, here's a basic, I call it my curriculum, but it's really just basic principles of like how we're going to train, what it's going to look like, all that sort of stuff. But I almost have moved away from like systematizing things to the point where like, yeah, everybody starts with this, then we go to that, then we go to that, then we go to that. And not say that some kids do fall into that category, but others don't. So it's always about, what principles do I have? And then using those, train whatever athlete is in front of me based on that. Because yeah, it might not look the same for everybody, which is something that I think obviously you learn as you do it more, but it's just a big part of what you do. Because sometimes if you're doing less for like the kid that you spoke, you're essentially taking something away from him rather than giving him what he needs. So it's something I've definitely thought about a lot over the last few years.
And it's also an art having conversations with parents or athletes, because it's like, yeah, I don't lie to them. I tell them exactly. I would say, in a sense, you need to tell them what they want to hear, as long as you know you're going to handle it the absolute best way possible. And I don't mean that to be deceiving in the slightest, but like, we'll get parents who are like, hey, my kid is, starting high school, they play this position. How is the training going to benefit them? It's like, yeah, I can answer that question, but I think you're thinking about it in the wrong way. So how can we have the best conversation possible, but then me also deliver the highest quality service possible? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, Liam, and I'm curious to hear your take on this, like, periodization aside, training is all that aside, like, what's really going to make these kids get something from the gym? In my opinion, showing up. In my opinion, 100%. Being there and being consistent. Nothing's going to matter more. I don't care about your perfect plan, because your perfect plan is tossed out the window the second they decide they'd rather hang out with their friends that day, or they're going to go out of town for a week and you didn't even know, and their parents surprised them with a vacation. Like, none of it matters. But if they are asking, and these are my favorite texts and emails to get, parent will hit me up. Hey, we were going to go out of town, but like they love training. Can they please squeeze in a morning session? And then we'll leave town a couple hours later. They keep asking to go to the gym. Yeah. And in my mind, it's like, yeah, if they want to be here, they're going to be here. Yeah. They'll make it happen. And if the kid really loves training, they're going to get, the benefits are going to be huge. Because you take a 13-year-old and see them 3 or 4 times a week, in a month, you're going to be like, wow. In 3 months, you're going to be like, you're not even the same athlete. And then a year later, dude, it's crazy. Yeah. So that's my thing now. Like, the biggest thing, not the, how did I piece everything together? Not the program, not like pitching and selling the parents. It's no, if they love it, they'll be here. If they're here, they get better. If they get better, results speak for themselves. So let's start with that.
Yeah. Right? The more you learn, you're like, yes, exercise selection is important to an extent, but at the same time, consistent effort is the only thing that's going to make a difference, because it could be the perfect program on paper. And we've all heard this as strength coaches, but sometimes parents or sport coaches don't understand this. But like, it could be the perfect program on paper, but if they're never there to actually do it, or they come to 1 out of the 3 sessions that you plan for them, what are they actually going to get? Like, there's no point in just, or you have those parents, or not parents, but like just situations where they've missed a lot. So then they want to, in as short a window as possible, they're like, all right, we have 3 weeks to get them ready for this. And I'm like, that's not exactly how this works. But
yeah, it's not. But I mean, like, you're so right though, dude, with like the kid. It's like, dude, as soon as a kid really likes something, not only are they going to be begging their parents to do it all the time, their parents are going to be stoked that their kid is that passionate about something.
Yeah.
And then like that's the golden moment where like, oh my gosh. And it's so fun to see some of these kids where it's just like, they walk in, they're like, hey, what's up, Coach Shaq? What's up, Coach Cal? And their parents, like, you can just see them in the background. They're just laughing. Like, they just want to be here every day. All they want to do is come lift. And I'm like, awesome, let's do it. They've made so much progress, and they're going to keep making progress because they're here. That's it. That's the special sauce showing up.
How do you deal with so obviously, it's coming a long way in the last, I don't know, however long it's been, 10 to 20 years, as far as like swimmers actually doing a strength and conditioning program. But there's still a lot of misconceptions out there on, one, the effects that the gym will have on the swimmer, whether it's bulking up or slowing down or this or that. And then 2, like what should actually be in that strength program. So could you touch on those a bit as far as like what are some of the misconceptions that you're constantly hearing about and or dispelling yourself? And then two, what are some things that maybe swimmers don't think that they need to be doing, but that's what actual strength and conditioning looks like, even for, you know, a swim population that everybody wants to train so differently or so specific or this or that?
Yeah, it's like this weird thing. I think swimmers or swim coaches or water polo too, like just in the aquatics world, they feel so unique and special, or at least they want to feel like that. And dude, I hear this all the time. Like, we don't want to do that football training.
Yeah.
Like, it's like as if like S&C, like all of S&C is football. And like, maybe it's because YouTube and Instagram and all those things, like they show dudes ripping 500-pound squats and coaches yelling and everyone's big. And it's like, that's one small, like, part of the field. Like the same way, like bodybuilding and Olympic weightlifting and CrossFit, they're all different forms of training. And swimmers and polo players, for some reason, like start off with this thought, like, well, it needs to look more like that. And well, we have to egg beater and we shoot and we swim butterfly. Like, well, what can we do for our shoulders? And it's like, yeah, part of me, like, you know, we're aquatic sports or we're AquaStrength Performance. So our name kind of gives into that, but like our training is just training. It's just basic training. And it's getting people to trust that and realize that, like, yeah, every athlete needs to do really fast things. You're not going to do anything faster than sprinting and throwing a med ball. You're not. And when you explain it to them and you really break it down, like they understand and they're usually nodding their head and they're like, cool. And if you make it competitive and fun, then they'll do it. It's letting them know that, and like also letting them know, like, yeah, it doesn't need to look like swimming in here. You already do that 3 hours a day. Like, no, I'm not going to set up a cable and have you pull it like you're swimming freestyle. Yeah. Like, you took 1,000 strokes today. Do you want to do more of that? Like, and then and you have to be polite and understanding and hear them and listen to them and then explain to them what's going to help. And it's like, well, listen, hey, if we get really strong at pulling, if we row and we do lat pull downs and we do chin ups and pull ups, you're going to build those muscles that you need in your sport. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it. And it's like, yeah, like we're training movements. Like, if you want to have great underwaters, your spine needs to be able to move and your hips need to be able to generate power. We can do those things, and it doesn't have to look like some goofy video you saw on Instagram of someone hanging from a bar and flopping and kicking a med ball. Like,
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's eye candy. It's eye candy, and it's like, but you can't just say it. Like, it doesn't matter what you say. That's like the first part of it. You need to show them results. Ultimately, you need to deliver results. And so the way I look at it, like, if we can make them feel better, help get them stronger, more powerful, and healthier. Like, if you can take away someone's shoulder pain that they have all the time and they start performing better in the pool, that's where that buy-in and that trust is really built. So I think I used to spend a lot of time, like, getting frustrated, getting angry, having the conversations, trying to convince people. And it's like, words and conversations are only going to take you so far. You just need to deliver a great product.
Yep.
And if you do, the rest will take care of itself. And so now, I mean, like, my Instagram posts, I'm like totally making fun of it all the time. I'll post like swim workout, water polo workout. And I say it because, and I'll explain this, and I've explained it on other podcasts. This is what I've come to realize. And I think I got this from Kier, maybe. So rugby strength coach, used to be rugby strength coach. Like, the best message in the world means nothing if it falls on deaf ears, or if you're saying it to, you know, no crowd, an empty room. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, if I really want to help swimmers and polo players, well, first off, you need to get swimmers and polo players in the room. Yeah. So are they going to watch my random video about strength training and telling them everything they're doing wrong? People don't really like to be told what they're doing wrong. So I don't think that's going to work. Now, if I start off with like a clip of swim or water polo and say, hey, this is a swim or water polo workout, you're probably going to catch a few more swimmers or water polo players in your net. Now, once they're there, the information you provide and the training you provide and the insight you provide, that really matters. But it doesn't matter if they're not in the room. So my big thing is, like, pull them in, then try to enlighten and let everybody know what you're about, what you think works, what has shown, you know, to work over time with the athletes you work with. And it's like, yeah, I feel super confident in posting that kind of stuff because we have kids feeling better, getting stronger, getting more powerful, going to play in college. And once they're there, they're like, yeah, that's it. That's all. It speaks for itself. They're doing the thing. So that's really it.
And I think we're in a field where a lot of people have a lot of opinions on how they should be exercising, and they hear a lot of things because obviously we're in the age of information. It's so easy to see these things on Instagram, and then, you know, and again, it's about education too, because if you know, say a parent who doesn't know that much about the physical body or anything like that does see that thing and can then be like, oh, well, like, my kid's a swimmer. that maybe is something that they should be doing, and not in a bad way, but like they just don't know any better. Which is part of the reason I just having this podcast in general is to help educate parents or sport coaches on all these principles that we have. But yeah, I find myself getting frustrated, but then like you said, sometimes maybe you do just have to not give into it, but like you said, post something that says this is a swim specific workout, and then that'll get them in, and then they realize, oh wait, we're jumping, we're sprinting, we're throwing weight around, whatever it is, I guess this is what it really is. And then they fall into it, they enjoy it, they love it, and then they're like, all right, never looking back now. So I think it's always the double-edged sword, because not everybody has poor intentions with things. Like parents obviously want the best for their kids, and hopefully swim coaches want the best for their swimmers, but there's so much information out there that everybody has this opinion on things. And swimming is also, strength conditioning is also that like Dunning-Kruger effect, where you learn just a little bit and you think you know a ton. And then the more you learn, I'm like, this parent seems to know a lot. I have like a master's degree, been doing this for how many years, and I'm not even sure on this concept. And then it's definitely a conundrum that we deal with, but it's, try to do it what you can the best.
I was way more confident when I was 23, 24 than I am now. And I know I'm way smarter and way better at what I do now. So you couldn't be more spot on. And like you said, I think it took years of getting, athletes, parents, coaches just DMing me and sending me videos like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? I'd get frustrated. I'd let it frustrate me. Like, it's stupid is what I think it is. But you're like, but why are they watching this? Why did it grab their attention? And attention is king. Yeah. Like you need to, if you can't learn from something else, what are you doing? Like, how are you going to move forward? How are you going to build your business? How are you going to touch and help more lives? And that's ultimately where I made the flip. And I was like, wait, okay, if this many people are seeing that, how about I make my version of that, but actually make it beneficial, and it can actually help people. Like you can steal the good out of anything and then just flip it to the right stuff, like however you want it to come across. But grab the attention and then enlighten.
Yep. Look, man, I know you have a session to get to, so last question, and kind of just to keep ripping on what we're already talking about, but what are just a few things that you do in your training that some people might see and think, I wonder why he's doing that with his population?
Ooh, yeah. Can I give two things actually?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one that I get questioned on this all the time is sprinting. They're like, well, why sprint if you can just sprint in the pool? Let me be very clear. There is nothing you can do as fast as sprinting on land. And we are not training them to be runners or sprinters at all. It is the stimulus that it sends to the central nervous system, right? Like nothing. You can't do anything that fast. And so when you're working that fast, it's teaching their brain and their body how to fire at that speed. And it will lead to development and, the ability to produce force faster in all other aspects of their life. So sprinting is huge. I think every athlete, regardless of sport, should be sprinting. I don't even care if your sport doesn't involve, like every sport involves speed and being able to see something and react and boom, like you got to be good to go. So that's sprinting is huge, especially with swimmers. And every time I get the question, why not just do it in the pool? You can't sprint in the pool as fast as you can sprint on land. You can't touch anywhere near the same speed and have that same stimulus on your central nervous system. So that's the first thing. Second thing that I always get questioned on is isometrics. And like, here's my brief little thing on isos. We do 1 to 2 isos a session, every session with athletes, sometimes more. You can push isos to failure or close to failure safely better than anything else in the weight room. And it's not only are they great for mobility and strength, they're great for tendon health. They're great for improving range of motion and, teaching them how to really own positions with their body. And then there's very minimal fatigue. So if we have a kid do a bodyweight iso lunge for 2 minutes each leg, you might look at their face at like 1:45 and be like, oh my gosh, they are in extreme pain. This is really challenging. Their legs are shaking, like they're sweating. Then they finish, their legs feel heavy for like a minute or two, and then they're totally fine. And, maybe like the first couple times they do isos, they're a little sore and they think they're sore from the iso, but they're actually sore from what we did during lift. And then after that, they almost have a huge recovery benefit. Like they speed up the recovery process because of the amount of blood flow being delivered. I mean, dead hangs, iso lunges, wall sits, Copenhagen's, depth push-up isos, overhead hold isos, all those isos, you can train them at a really high level, minimal fatigue. We do them all the time. Super great for, all those things that I mentioned, and not being used as much as I think they could be used in not just swim and water polo, but most sports. Because ultimately, I mean, what gets people sore is eccentric load. And like, it's really tough to go have a good swim practice if you do a bunch of pull-ups or chin-ups because your lats are cooked. But yeah, you hold the position, like it's just not as taxing. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal for every athlete to train isometrics. So those are my two.
Yeah, honestly, could not agree more. Where can people find you if they wanted to keep up with you or hear anything else that you have to say?
Yeah, man, we got the AquaStrength podcast is our podcast, and then AquaStrength Performance is my Instagram. Liam, I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for having me on. Your athletes are lucky to have you, dude, and I can't wait to see, your business and your thing continue to grow. So please stay in touch, man. This was a blast. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Likewise.